Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Projects with Tim and JD. Up to now, we've been doing projects with JD, but now we're going to start doing projects with 3D, our new team member. By the way, I'm a complete 3D printing rookie. Never owned a printer before, so I'd like to introduce Brandon.
Howdy.
I brought him in today because he is a 3D printing expert. I am a complete rookie when it comes to 3D printing. So I've invited Brandon.
Howdy.
He's actually been 3D printing for quite a while. So I brought him in. We're going to unbox this bad boy together. So I look forward to doing all sorts of projects with 3D now and kind of adding them to the channel. I got ideas and plans for the tractor and other things. So by the way, I'm not sponsored. I bought this with my own money. So the channel will still be called Projects with Tim and JD, but we're just adding 3D. So let's get started. So what I've got here is the Bambu Labs X2D combo unit, which includes the AMS and the AMS HT. There are already a bunch of great X2D unboxing videos, so mine will be a speed run. What I want this video to focus on is the discussion, which will include Bambu Lab compared to other printers in general. Is the X2D worth the extra cost over, say, the P2S? And I'll show several parts I've already printed and installed on my tractor. If you'd rather skip the unboxing altogether, jump forward to this point in the video. We started the calibration process. Looks like it's going to take about 30 minutes. We'll let that run. But in the meantime, Brandon, tell me about, I know there's kind of some discussion about Bambu Labs being a closed system as opposed to other systems that are out there that are open source. First of all, what kind of printer do you have?
Well, when it comes to 3D printers, it's the classic Ford versus Chevy, Android versus Apple. There's every make and model, and honestly, at the end of the day,
there's no emotion involved in any of that.
No, everybody gets along just fine.
Sure.
But you know, it's one of those things where there's personal preference in there. As far as I'm concerned, it's 3D printing, and you know there are pros and cons to all of them that you can get. I bought a Bambu Lab printer. I bought the P2S. It works great. I have had zero issues with it. I've had it for about 6 months now. Yeah, I did look in all the other different brands, but it just works. You just plug it in, run calibration, and it goes. You know, one of the big debates I'm sure you had to consider is what are you going to be printing? That's the big thing when it comes down to it. And that's really, I think, more important as opposed to what brand of printer you get, is what is the intent of your purposes of printing and what are you going to be printing? And that's going to determine what kind of printer you need. Do you need a closed printer? Do you need one with active heating in it? And that's kind of the way I looked at it. When I bought my P2S, they didn't have the X2D yet.
And I guess if we put it in tractor terms for a moment, some people love John Deere. Some people love Kubota. Some people love Massey Ferguson. They're all great tractors. There is a reason why I chose this tractor. There is a reason why someone buys a Kubota.
Same goes with 3D printers. Yep.
Sounds good, right? So hey, drop in the comments. You know, this is a community, and what I'd like to see is we all can agree to disagree. Maybe you don't agree with Bamboo Labs, and maybe you have a Prusa or you have another model, but I can appreciate you chose that for a reason. So drop in a comment. What model do you have and why did you choose it?
So Tim, what was it that drove you to get the X2D over the P2S? Since they are very similar, and I know a lot of people are going to be comparing those two models.
Yeah, well, in our discussions, you had kind of told me and showed me some of the stuff you've printed in like ABS. That's called engineering material, right? And there's other materials too. And there's some things for the tractor, there's some projects that I want to do that, yeah, I really did look at the A1 for what, $400 or something? That's an awesome little printer.
Good printer for a good price.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there's some Prusas and great ones out there. But I thought, instead of spending the $400 and then in 6 months, jumping up to something, I'm really interested in some of the things for the tractor that I'm going to need to be printing ASA and ABS. Again, with your help, I understand what I can do with those things. And that's why I leaned into this one, is I might as well just bite the bullet and get the one that's going to do everything that I want it to do.
Which you can. And that's the thing with these enclosed printers. The P2S and the X2D, very similar, but also very different. You have active heating in this, right? And the price, that's the other thing to consider. P2S, it was, at the time, at normal prices, the P2S was only $100 less than the X2D. If you're printing engineering materials, it's worth it. When it comes to printing more of the engineering grade materials, having the enclosure is a must. So that gets you into your P2Ss and your X2Ds. The price difference between the two is marginal. You're looking at $200 when the P2S, now they just had the first sale on the P2S. You're looking at a $200 difference right now on it. If you were to take the P2S...
By the way, the sale's going on until mid-July.
And every 6 months they have a sale. So
and every 6 months it sounds like they have a good
About
sale.
December time, there's another sale on them.
Sure.
So the P2S does not have the active heater. If I want to, and I do want to, add an active heater to mine, that was the intention when I did get it, it's going to be about $150 to put one in, the one that I'm looking at. That's your cost right there, right? To add an aftermarket heater to the P2S is going to be the same cost as buying this with active heater, with the exhaust fan on it already, and with dual heads. X2D is the way to go, in my opinion.
All right, let me ask you this then. So the second print head, according to Bamboo Labs, is really made for, you can't do the engineering filaments, supposedly, and it's really made for more the support aspect. So what do you do on your P2S?
Having another head for support material is great, but you're also then buying more material to run, more material to dry, more cost, because you have to buy the support material, and it's not cheap. But the way I do it is I typically will just use the same material that I am printing with as my support material, because I don't want to switch out filaments to go through that time and waste material to do that.
And you have an AMS and an AMS HT, right?
I got the AMS as I'm running, and I'll just calibrate my supports to have just enough gap to where enough to support it, but it pretty much falls off once it's done printing. I don't have to. There's some scarring. You're always gonna have some marking here and there, but it doesn't need to be pretty for the stuff I'm doing. And honestly, it does pass for. You can't really tell.
Okay. All right. So you've kind of figured out a way to engineer your way around that.
Yeah. So you can adjust the settings and get it to where you can pull the supports off with very little damage to your model. So the P2S is perfectly capable of printing the engineering grade materials without the active heater, but you're really stressing the heat bed because it's having to run full blast the whole time to keep that chamber warm. By adding the active heater, or by the X2D having that active heater, it keeps the chamber warm so the heat bed doesn't have to be blasting the whole time to keep that chamber warm. And it's just a lot faster, heats up really quick, and more convenient when you're printing.
Tell me about, you said you have an AMS too as well. Tell me about what that's for.
The AMS is great. I also bought the HT, and I bought the AMS with the printer because if you're gonna get an AMS or think you're gonna get an AMS, the deal is so much better buying the combo. So the AMS is great, but when I have it full of filament and I'm printing, or I want to print while I'm drying, I need to have another dryer. The HT is great. It dries engineering grade material. You can also run engineering grade material through it, so you don't have to put on an external spool. A lot of the times, if I'm running non-abrasives, I'll dry them out in that, and then I'll throw them in my AMS too. The HT gets hotter. It is hot enough to dry your ASAs and your ABSs in 8 hours, which is a lot faster than the 12 to 18 hours it would take otherwise doing it in an AMS too. Additionally, the being able to run the engineering grade materials that have the abrasives in it, so your carbon filled or carbon fiber filled or your fiberglass filled, they can run through that and it doesn't destroy it as fast as it would the AMS 2.
Nice. Plus it gives you another dry
being able to
roll.
dry, that's one of the things about downside. Bamboo Lab says they don't allow drying while printing because it might soften the materials too much that are going into the printer.
So you have to get it dry, but then while you're printing, this is not drying.
Correct. So I will typically dry stuff out in my HT, throw it in an AMS 2, and if everything in the AMS gets to a certain humidity level, that's usually the only time I'll run the AMS for drying.
Let's talk about how much it costs to print things. So as an example, Brandon, as you know, I already mentioned this, he already printed this for me. This is a vented front axle dipstick, say that 10 times fast, for my John Deere 1025R. Otis Innovations making an awesome metal one of these, not knocking that at all. It's about $100. And who knows, maybe I'll eventually get it. But as an example, Brandon, what did it cost to print that, do you think?
Under $1 in material.
Under $1. Did you have to engineer this?
You can find a lot of these files free online.
This is one of the ones you just downloaded, right?
Yeah,
all right, so
for a
few cents.
Couple dollars and $1,000 for a printer, you got yourself a $150 dipstick.
Right. So I bought myself some 1/4-inch line. I'm good to go. That'll be a project I'll be doing on my tractor coming up. And then this is a stopper for my rock shaft. Now there's a factory one, but I wanted a second one. So I asked Brandon, hey, what can you do? And so he made me a second one of these. Because it's just nice. I actually have the material collector sitting over here, the MC2120, and it's nice to have a stopper on the top and the bottom, because then I'm not tilting the PTO shaft so sharply. I love that. So what do you think that costs, Brandon, to print that?
Again, it was cost more in hardware than it did material for the print.
Yeah, the washer and the bolt and the nylon nut.
$2 for that.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not gonna make up your money for the printer on little parts for your tractor, but it adds up after a while. And just the simple sheer convenience of having it. For example, the other day I needed a Bondo scraper. Just printed one. I didn't have to go to the store. It cost me.
And you live near town, so you just.
Well, and even at that, it was still faster to print it than it would have been to go to the store and buy it. So.
All right, fair enough. And you could stay in your PJs. So. Well, Brandon, got my first print. Benchy's all done. We're waiting for it to cool off a little bit before we pop it out, but it looks pretty good. So I'm jazzed about that.
Easy peasy.
I guess so. It actually went really well. Just follow the instructions and you'll be fine. Come on back to the channel for a bunch more 3D printing content, as well as tractor content, and there's going to be some crossover there. Here are a few things that I've printed and installed on my tractor in week 1. These are a set of forward and reverse pedal covers that I found on printables.com. Thank you for the creator of these. They popped right on, fit nice and snugly. I kind of liked them. By the way, as you're going to see, I like yellow. What can I say? This is a diff lock pedal that I found on Maker World, and I went with the fuzzy skin option, which is so cool. I just love there's a really cool tactile feel with this fuzzy skin option. This one needed a little bit of coercion with a hammer. This is actually my design. I used Tinkercad to create a PTO shaft cover, monogrammed, of course. As you'll see, the supports broke out without too much trouble. There's something really cool about printing something, grabbing it off the build plate, and just walking right over and slapping it on the tractor. It just feels really good. This was a little tight, so I'm going to have to open it up by maybe 1 millimeter just so it comes off a little bit easier, but hey, keeps the shaft clean. Plus it's monogrammed. This is a brake pedal cover that I created myself, again using Tinkercad. Fits really snugly. I know there's some things you can do like ironing and chemical smoothing and sanding and things, so I'm definitely thinking about playing with that, but these are early iterations and I'm just kind of playing at this point. I'm thinking about redoing the pedals, all 3 pedals, in a yellow with black inlays. The black and yellow looks really good together. So there's just a few things I did week 1, and these are just silly little things, but there's more to come with 3D and JD. If you want to, go ahead and like and subscribe. That'd be great. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you. From Projects with Tim and JD, I'm Tim. That's JD.
And I'm Brandon.
See ya.
And I'd be like, so Tim, what?
See? It's not as easy. Not as easy as you think.
So Tim, what was it that drove you to get the X?
I know that that will have some things that we'll need to get to. Shh. Let's hope that there was nothing glass in there.